Hello, friends.
Hello.
How is everybody doing this evening? Happy Wednesday, my friends. January the 19th, Achieving Wellness. This particular session is about the issue of trust. And we have, as our special guest, Tiny Trinkets and Tarot Ange. So, everybody, welcome, Ange. Um,
Hey, everyone.
I'm not sure. I'm not seeing any comments, so I'm not sure if my chat's frozen again, which I had that issue last week. Anywho, and thank you so much for agreeing to be here for signing up for this. It's a delicate topic. It's an
hmm
important topic,
Yep.
and I think that when I reached out to you, I told you that this was a topic that was requested by some people in the chat. So
hmm
it's important to me that we do a good job. And I can't think of a better person to have sort of as my co-pilot while we navigate this tricky topic.
Thank
Um,
you.
you.
Thanks, Kelly. Thanks for having me. I'm really honored to be here. That you've trusted, pun intended, trusted me enough
Right?
to to be here to discuss this topic. Yeah, and I see Rain. Hi, Rain. I see you in the chat.
Hi, Rain. Welcome,
And
my friend.
Sempris. Hey. But yes, thanks for having me. And yeah, I'm looking forward to diving into this, and hopefully the audience will chime in as we go.
Absolutely, absolutely. Just a couple of things, some housekeeping stuff while people are rolling in and getting a notification and navigating tricky weather and coming home and feeding the kiddos and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Um, so, uh, this coming Friday, January 21st, I will have Jane the Seeker here 3 p.m. for our Thanks Spirit It's Friday session where we will do a collective read for what's happening for the weekend. Then I will be back on Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern doing my oracles and chat. Where I'm going to show you guys the oracle deck that I've been working on, my own. So, yay, me. Do you
That's
have
cool.
anything going on, Ange, that you want anybody to know about that's coming up for you? Are you going anywhere?
Um, I had a few live scheduled that had to be rescheduled. There's quite a bit of people that have some stuff going on in their lives. So at the moment, I don't have anything. There's a couple things in February, but I just
Okay.
they haven't been finalized yet. But yeah, I'm excited for the series that you were discussing here on this channel about mental health starting in
Yeah.
February. I'm really looking forward to that on a monthly basis. So
Yeah. So, friends, if you missed it yesterday, I think it was yesterday that I popped on um, Tiny Trinkets and Tarot, Indigo Crystals, and myself are starting a series called Mental Health Matters. And that is going to take place here on Dozen Cats for Me Wellness Chats channel, first Wednesday of every month, on the same night that we are here tonight, which is 6 p.m. Eastern Time, where we will be looking at all manner of topics. And the first show that we're going to do is destigmatizing mental health issues.
mhm.
So we are all really excited and looking forward to sharing the information and getting it out there. So I do hope that everyone can join us and support us
Mhm.
as we move forward. It's exciting. I'm
Yes,
thrilled.
absolutely.
And I don't like to put anyone on the spot, but I will say to the people in the chat that Ange comes to us with, first of all, she's a wonderful person. She's very kind hearted, a fellow Canadian, so I'm always thrilled about that. And the reason that I reached out to Ange to join me tonight is because I thought that uh, her professional background, as well as uh, when she's on her regular channel doing her readings, she's quite often advocating for mental health issues. And as you all know, I suffer from diagnosed anxiety, panic disorder, and depression. So I can't think of a better person to have, as I said in the beginning, as my co-pilot while we navigate this. So hello to Tarot Stash, and Cardamancy Mesquite is here, and Rain again, and Sempress. So let's get started, because we got a lot to cover, right?
Yes.
We got a lot to cover. All right. So as always, you guys, please feel free to participate in the chat. There is no pressure to participate, but we appreciate it if you go along with us. It's going to sort of help us, keep this train on the tracks, as it were. Hi, Anna Banana. How you doing, love? All right. So how I wanted to start this was, what is the full meaning of trust? And while I'm reading this, I would be really interested if I could ask the people in the chat if you could tell us two things. One, if you have trust issues, and two, are they overall trust issues? Is there a specific relationship that you have issues with trust? Is it trust with yourself? If you feel like participating, if you could let us know, that would be awesome. So here we go, folks. What is the full meaning of trust? It's a firm belief in character and personal strength, or your personal truth, of something, someone that's placed trust within yourself. And I know that sounds a little bit wonky, but if you think about it in terms of your gut instinct, or your intuition, or your sort of your inner self, that is where the trust comes. Having that firm belief in your own person, and in your capabilities, in your gut instinct, in your intuition, in your thought process, etc. Right? If that makes sense. A person or a thing, and I got this from a website, and of course I'll include all of that in the description box after the video. A person or a thing in which confidence is placed, which I think is a very, very interesting, sort of little sentence there, because it speaks to all manner of different relationships that you can be in, where trust could or could not be a factor, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the third note was, when you meet someone or engage in a conversation with someone where you are displaying an element of trust because you're sharing something, you're showing that person and yourself that you have confidence, that it's a safe space to do so.
Yep.
When that trust doesn't feel like it's being reciprocated back to you, that is when all manner of things can start to happen, right? Those walls start to build up. Maybe you get anxious, you're nervous, you're stressed, or it could go even further than that, right? You suffer some sort of an emotional setback, and you sort of have to restart and re-believe all over again. So I thought that was really, really interesting, because I didn't even think about trust in those terms, to be honest. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Trust is a very vast topic, and it has many, many layers to it. There's trust with one another, as you were just saying, and there's also trust with yourself. And then it all breaks down as well. Like, me trusting a friend is different than me trusting a healthcare professional, or trusting the cashier at the grocery store.
Exactly.
So there's all these dynamics to it. And one quote that I found online that I really, really like, and it says, and I'll be referring to my notes if anybody's wondering why I'm looking down, but I'm a Virgo, and I have to have all these details. So anyway.
You came prepared, and we love that.
Yes.
We love that.
So one of my favorite quotes about trust is, trust takes years to build, seconds to break, and forever to repair. So it just gives me chills every time I say it, because it's so true. trust is like this. I look at it like a fragile, like glass figure, you know, and like it can easily be broken. And even if it is repairable, it's never the same. It's
Right.
never the same. So I value trust. I really honor it, and I feel like it's a privilege to be able to have people open up to you and put that trust into you.
Yes.
As Kelly was saying, I am a healthcare professional. I'm currently in school to become a registered nurse, but I have been in the healthcare profession since, yes, it is very relatable, isn't it, Rain? Um, and I've been in the healthcare profession since 2001. So I've worked in many different areas, right? Between hospitals, group homes, nursing homes, in home care. And of course, I have my own personal experience with just the people in my life. So again, trust is just something that I truly do not take for granted. When someone confides in me, either as a friend or a professional, I take it seriously. And I'm just going to read another point that I made here. I said, trust cannot be purchased or given, it must be earned. And then I touch again on its fragility. And I feel like it cannot be earned through words alone. Like you have to show, like it has to be actions, and you have to show people that you are trustworthy in order for people to believe you.
Yeah.
And again, it has to be earned as well. Um,
I agree with that 100%.
yeah,
Sorry, I'm popping comments up here, and
no, it's
I
cool.
don't know why, but I'm like peering over top of the comments. If I look funny, that's what I'm doing, folks. I used to work in a group home, as most of the people that frequent my channel know, and we were talking one day about something, and it just sort of went to that point, and I thought it was really interesting when I was going over the stuff for the topic of trust. Um, Personally, I don't think that I've ever been in a situation that required more trust in my own personal experience than when I was in that particular occupation. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Everyone that I worked with was nonverbal, and I was solely responsible for their well being. From their
Mm-hmm.
finances to their health to their everyday living, and then further to help them sort of, which I don't like saying this word, but like integrate them into a normal society. That was the
Mm-hmm.
mandate. Sorry. And it was interesting to me when I was thinking about this that was immediately where I went and thought to myself, the innocence that was displayed there in terms of trusting all of us to have their best interest at heart,
Mm-hmm.
trusting that we would be able to take care of them and properly, and without any judgment, without any outside reference,
Exactly.
and without any kind of environmental or societal sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Concept in the back of their mind, thinking like this is how this is going to go. There
Right.
wasn't of that, and I thought that was an interesting point about the innocence, which speaks to what you had just said in your quote.
Mm-hmm.
That it takes just seconds to break it. The people in the home that I worked were very innocent in terms of, not that they never had experience with other people before, but they had really no option but to
Mm-hmm.
trust us.
Yep.
And they did so in such an innocent way. We never
Mm-hmm.
had to prove to them that we were going to do the best of our ability to look after them. But they gave it to us freely.
Yep.
And I will tell you, on the other side of that, when you have such an amazing experience, which most people here can relate to, just being around a small child, right, or around a pet. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that unconditional love, that feeling of I'm gonna put my hands out like this. You're gonna put your hand in my hand, and it's gonna be okay.
Mhm.
Uh,
Mhm.
it is that to me, and I can't remember what that's called. The statue that has the two hands like that. I know that there's an actual name for it, but the statue that sits like that is exactly what I feel like trust is, because inside
Mhm.
the two hands is someone's heart, and
Right.
to me, that's what trust is.
Mhm. That's beautiful. That's a beautiful symbology of it. Exactly. And yeah, and it goes back to, like you were saying, the vulnerability. The more vulnerable a person. So again, like going back to our experience in a healthcare setting, but also like people just reaching out to you about something very personal, um, outside of a profession as well. It's it's important to be able to support that person in a way that doesn't belittle or demean what they're trying to say to you. And I'll get into that a little bit later about like maybe some of the qualities of trust and maybe like what that looks like. But certainly, showing up and being non-judgmental, that was a key word that you used, is a huge part of forming the trust. Because if somebody's going to feel judged, they're not going to be comfortable enough to open up to you, of course. So that's a big part of it. I'm just reading some
Yeah,
of the comments too. So
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Um, you know,
mm, yeah, yep,
I think that
absolutely.
everybody has, and this is interesting because of what I just said. And I have to be honest, I never really thought about this before, in terms of what I said about the innocence of it. Um, I think that um, I personally can relate to so many people in the chat on one side, and then to the complete other extreme. I am a suspicious person because I've been hurt so many times in the past. However, that
Mm-hmm.
does not stop me from sharing. And so for me, that is really, really important. Um, I sort of judge a little bit, like, is it okay how much I share? But I still always share. But
Mm-hmm.
then on the other
Mm-hmm.
side of it, because of my anxiety, and so I want to say this because this is important, right? Ange and I are not medical doctors. We are not, psychotherapists.
No.
We are not, a professional. But because I have seen therapists and psychotherapists, the element of trust that I must have, or anyone must have, when they go to see a person in that sort of environment, because you're so vulnerable and you're hurt, you're hurting, and you
Mm-hmm.
need help. You
Mm-hmm.
must dig deep and find the strength to open up and share, because if you don't, the help that you're going to receive back, or the information or the tips or the tools, whatever, is going to be very limited. And you will not come out on the other side being successful from that
Mm-hmm.
experience, whatever word you want to put on it. So I think that I don't know what the point of that is to mention, but I thought it was an interesting note to make, that I think that we as people, if we're given the opportunity to look at a situation and go, yeah, I don't know if I trust that. I don't know how I feel about that.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're put in a position like anybody who's been in front of a therapist, where you have to open up and share, you have no choice really but to trust that they're there to assist you and give you the best help that they can.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, So I think what you're saying, and it's so important too, because when you're placed in a situation where you're sort of forced to trust, it just makes the situation that much more uncomfortable.
Right.
I feel, especially for the person hurting. I mean, the professional is sort of used to it, but it doesn't make it any easier. I'm just speaking from my own experience. It doesn't make it any easier for me because I know that that person's uncomfortable. So I feel that it's really important, as the healthcare professional, to really set some really, how do you say this? To really get to know where the person is. You know how the saying is meet someone where they're at.
Yes.
So for me as a healthcare professional, I'm always feeling out, the best I can. Sometimes you don't have that much time, but you get to become a very good judge of character. Is does this person even trust themselves? And self trust is crucial. And I guess I'll just dive into that now
Yeah.
since we're
Yeah.
on this.
Yeah.
But self trust is where it all starts. So knowing your thoughts, emotions, needs, desires, values, beliefs, that is crucial in order for you to have self-trust and therefore be able to open up and allow anyone in to help you. So essentially trust begins with you. Um, so this, and I just wrote, this is where some people struggle in building and developing relationships, because if you don't know who you are and if you don't know what you want out of life, then that'll show up and it'll make it very difficult for anyone to trust you or to be able to help you. And I
Okay.
wrote, sometimes as a healthcare professional, it's where I must begin with self-trust in order for my patients to be able to trust me. And it's not easy and it's not always successful, but I try to start there
Yes.
with it, because I don't know people's stories sometimes, right? Like trust issues can stem from childhood, from
Yes.
an upbringing, right? Maybe they were taught to fear. Maybe they have trauma that it's developed in their life. Some of us are taught to live in fear, not trust. They may come from abuse, neglect, or from past relationships that have broken trust so much that they are very leery, like you were saying, to even know if they want to trust anyone again. And I love the point that you made about how you, although you have been jaded and hurt, and I'm sure many of us, even in chat here, can agree, right, in life,
Yeah.
but you don't allow it to harden you, and I love that about you,
Yeah.
because so many of us can, and I mean, I'm not gonna lie, there's some times in my life where, yeah, I definitely did put that wall up, but I think that's healthy because that is sort of like your self protection,
Of course, it's
right?
definitely your defense mechanism.
Yeah,
It's like a rose with its thorns, right? I
right,
mean, it's a
right.
beautiful flower, but the thorns protect it. So,
Exactly. But you do have that choice to stay in that
yeah,
or to just like let it be fluid and just like move through it, to say, okay, that happened. It sucks. I've learned from it, and then move on. And again, it goes back to that idea of like, can this trust that has been broken be repaired? Some situations, depending on, of course, the circumstances, it is not repairable. Some bridges are burnt forever.
right.
And I think, I mean, that's a whole nother topic, but anyhow, um, you know, uh, I don't know exactly where I want to go with this, because again, I don't want to delve on to something a little bit deeper. We want to stay where we were, but yeah, in terms of bringing it back to self trust and just knowing where you're at, and really to, hello everyone else coming in. I just
Yep.
see the chat moving,
Yep.
and
Yep.
um,
Do you think, Ange, that it just in your opinion, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm going to. Sorry.
that's okay.
Do you think, in your opinion, that when it starts with you, do you believe that that's a combination of like gut instinct, intuition, um, your heart? What do you feel is where? Because I think that if someone's listening and they have trust issues, and
Hmm.
we're saying start within yourself, and they're
Hmm.
like, okay, great, like where?
Like, what does that mean? Right. So for me, it maybe can mean something different to many people, but for me personally, it just means really knowing who I am. So really getting in touch with, like, being real with myself, like getting in touch, like what am I really feeling, and what do I really need? Like, what are my needs and desires, and making sure that I'm reaching out and asking for what I need, because that can be hard for some of us. Um, and yes, part of it does have to do with trusting that inner knowing, and that's a
Yeah,
whole nother maybe level. Again, we're talking about levels of trust,
yeah,
um, because there's this just trusting in the process, trusting
yes,
in something greater than yourself. And again, it doesn't have to be religious connotations, or it can be, depending
yeah,
on what you prefer.
yeah,
Um, but believing in something bigger than yourself, I feel is important too. But Even if you don't, just
Yeah.
believing in whatever that means to you, of
Yeah.
trusting something outside of yourself to know um, that when you navigate this process, that you will be guided in the
Yeah.
right direction, and that trusting that gut instinct, that intuition is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting that you say that because I think to myself that um, at different stages in my life, I was at different levels of trust, right?
Hmm.
And I'm talking about adult years. I'm not talking about obviously my younger years.
Right.
Um, and I will tell you that I think that because of that experience of working in the group home, and the many years that I worked with young children and developmentally challenged and as well as physically challenged individuals, that is where my heart softened in
Mm.
terms of
Yep.
watching them and the way that they interact with individuals with such kindness and compassion.
Mm-hmm.
It was difficult to be in that environment and not have that sort of rub off on me, to be perfectly honest.
Yep.
Uh, I realized that not everyone is, hey, how are you? And, let's be
Hmm.
friends. I'll tell you everything about me, and I totally trust you. I realize that everyone isn't like that. And I find it funny because I often say that I am suspicious by nature.
Hmm.
So I think that that's just an interesting concept. But
Hmm.
I sort of went off there on my little tangent.
No,
Uh,
it's good. It's good.
bunch of comments going up and down the chat here, and I promise I'm going to get to them. I just wanted to say that I agree with Ange in terms of trusting yourself comes within.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that trusting yourself is a two part sort of like a little bit of a fork, but not like a fork in terms of like, I don't know which way I want to go fork. You have the trusting yourself that you're going to do the right thing no matter what. You're always going to take the high road. You're going to do what's best for you. You're going to listen to your intuition. You're going to listen to your gut. Use that as your navigator or as your compass. And then there's the other side of that, and that is that I trust others to do right by me.
Hmm.
Right?
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
think if I was being honest, if I'm going to have an issue with trust, that's where my issue starts. It's not me, it's other people.
Exactly.
Because just like everybody else, I have been, I've had that done to me. Let's just say that, right? I've had it done to me where I went, really, thanks. That was awesome.
Hmm. Hmm.
Less Christmas cards to send out.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know how to articulate that in a wonderful way. I will just say that for me personally, I think that trust definitely comes within. You have to trust yourself. You have to believe in yourself, believe in your power and who you are. But I also feel that there's another side of it that sort of forks to the left, shall we say, when it
Hmm.
comes to trusting other people that they're going to do whatever the right thing is to do,
Yep.
right?
Exactly. Yep.
uh,
I agree.
so hi JR, how are you, love? Let me just go back. I just want to read a couple of comments. I'm not going to stick them up on the screen. I'm just going to read them out loud if that's okay.
Yeah.
Sempra says a big light bulb moment was when I was a friend said that they don't know if they'll ever be able to trust anyone again. And I was trying to think of ways they could work on healing that.
Mm.
And then she says, continued, not sure if it was my guides or my brain just making connections, but all of a sudden I said, that doesn't depend on anyone else but you. And whether
Mm.
you realize it, it's only yourself you have to trust. Fantastic. Yes.
Yep.
That.
Exactly. It ties right into that self-trust. Yeah,
Yes,
again. And
exactly.
not allowing yourself to sit in that hardened state, because I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
it sucks when that trust is broken. That hurts. But just knowing that, there's so many other people out here that do have your best interest and that want to be kind and helpful to you.
Yes.
I mean, we can't let that one person or those group of people hold us back.
Yeah.
And
And
that,
that's sorry, go
no,
ahead.
it's okay. No, I was just going to say it just ties into toxic relationships and when to trust to let that go.
Yes.
That's a whole nother topic, but
Yes.
it's very important when we talk about trust in relationships. So
Absolutely. Interestingly, when you said that, what I thought about is, you know, coming to the chat, coming to these chats and frequenting the chat and building up the courage, shall we call it, or the bravery, or just building up the comfortability factor to participate in the chat, in this kind of chat. I mean, this can be a heavy topic for someone.
yes.
This can be a topic where opinions are going to vary on a large scale, I think. And this is a fantastic example of sometimes you just got to go with trusting it, right? I mean, if you want the information and you want a question answered, or you want to see how other ones feel, or someone says something and you hear it and you're like, hey, wait a minute, I want to say something about that. You trust it and you just go with it. And whether you realize it or not, you're listening to your gut, you're listening to your heart, because your heart's telling you, get in there and say this, right?
Exactly. And I've been there too. Like I try to participate in a lot of live chats here on YouTube. And sometimes there are topics that are brought up, like you just said, like that are a little bit heavier or maybe make people feel uncomfortable. And you're right. You get this sort of hit and you're like, oh, I want to say this, but you're like, should I say this? I don't know.
Yeah.
And again, it's trusting that the people that are here, both on screen and in chat, are going to carry you and support you.
Yeah.
And yeah, there is a level of trust to that, right? Because
100%.
Like, let's face it, the internet is as much as we do make safe spaces for people, it is not a safe space to be for someone who's vulnerable, because it's the World Wide Web. I mean, you get all kinds of personalities and all kinds of people coming here, and some of them don't have the best interests of others. Some of them are really broken, mean people. So yeah.
Rain says, how about when someone accuses you of trust issues when they are the ones breaking your trust? Which that's a really good point that I want to talk about. Bear with me now, because I'm going all the way down the screen. Thank you, JR.
Yes,
hi,
thanks,
sister.
JR.
How are you, love? Okay, so where am I here on my notes? Okay, so why is trust so important? Why is trust so important? Well, we've already said a few things as to why we think trust is important, right? I mean, how do you get a job? How do you meet a partner? How do you how do you go to the store and pick out the right sofa without trusting that the salesperson, assuming that you're talking to one, is telling you the accurate information, right? Trust means that you rely on someone else to do the right thing, like I was saying before, right? That's that left side going, well, I know I'm fine. I'm not so sure about you. Not so sure about you. You have to believe in the person's integrity and strength to the extent that you're able to put yourself on the line.
Yep.
It's a little bit of risk to yourself. And in some cases, it can be a lot of risk. I'm not trying to diminish it. I'm just saying trust is essential to any effective team because it provides a sense of safety. And that's what I was just talking about in this chat. Ange, I reached out to Ange. I said, hey, Ange, do you want to come on my channel? She's got to trust me that I'm not going to just go, woohoo, like whatever, and embarrass her or put her on the spot, or start talking about a belief that she can't co-sign to or whatever. There's an element of trust here that she has to believe in what we're doing and what we're talking about, but also believe in me that I'm going to navigate this in a direction that she's comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important that little bit, just for a few minutes, to talk about the many times that we do put that kind of trust into a situation or people, because I think we forget those ones.
Yes.
As human beings, we listen to that negative inner voice, right?
Mm-hmm.
We only ever think about the bad situation or the one that did not go well. We don't think about all the times that we put our trust or our faith in a person, such as what we were just talking about, when it worked out and you were like, wow, that was awesome, right?
Mm-hmm.
Think about any team that you ever played a sport on. Think about when you were in school and you did a class project or assignment. Think about if you were ever in a school play, or if you're an actor or an actress now, and you do like Broadway or whatever. You have to put your faith in the complete wheel, turning, and every cog doing its part in order
Mm-hmm.
for the wheel to actually have momentum and move. Um,
Yep.
it's fascinating to me that because I do this all the time. This is why I know this, right? I say it all the time on my channel to everybody, probably ad nauseum, that it is a conscious effort on my part to be positive and to take out negative stuff from a sentence, a paragraph, a story, a situation, and inject some positivity in it. And so, to me, this is what this speaks to, right? We must
Yep.
remember that we have many interactions and many different scenarios and situations within our lives that work out perfectly, and we don't even recognize that those are sort of like an olive branch of trust, or a situation that you would say is a trust that I put in other people, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We could think of 100 examples, I'm sure, like buying a house, buying a
Yeah.
car.
Yep.
Uh, you go to what's flea market, right? And the person's like, this is an antique, it's from 1865, and you're like, oh, I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
maybe it
Mm-hmm.
was 1975 and they just made it look like it. I mean, but that's what, you know what I mean? Like, you have to trust.
Right.
Every time someone gives you a $10 bill, you got to trust it,
Yeah. Exactly.
right?
And
It's not
like you were saying,
counterfeit.
it does tie back into like the ability to trust people's expertise. Like when you get onto an airplane, right? You're trusting that that freaking pilot
100%.
knows what they're doing. Or any vehicle for that matter. It doesn't have to be an airplane. Just an example. And so there's sort of that. Just what is the word I'm looking for? Automatic trust. Like you just like, well, yeah. I mean, of course, the person's got their pilot
Exactly.
license. I think I'm safe. Like all right, well, let's just hope that that person got enough sleep and that they're
Yes.
able to whatever. But and then just going back a little bit in terms of trust and relationships specifically, I wrote a few things down here that I personally feel that all relationships, um, trust is built upon certain foundations.
Mm-hmm.
And without these foundations, there cannot be trust.
Right.
And the first one I wrote down is empathy, but empathy with boundaries. It's very important to note that because I will admit I'm an empath. I'm very compassionate and kind, as I'm sure that you all can see and know from just watching who I am. But oh boy, we can take on other people's stuff, and that is a very slippery slope to be on, because then you are not helpful to the person, and all of a sudden their issues become your issues, and you're entangled in it, and you're no longer standing on the outside, being able to help them from that
Exactly.
perspective. You've gotten yourself into a mess, and I can tell you. As even a healthcare professional, I've learned my lesson there, right? And it's hard when you wear your heart on your sleeve, and like you want to have that extra personal connection, but you have to have boundaries, whether it be professional boundaries or boundaries with even a friendship or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Even let's just use, because we've kind of talked about professional a lot, let's talk about friendship. Even just making sure that that there's boundaries there in terms of what you're committed to, and what you will
Yes.
tolerate or what you expect,
Yep.
things like that. So number one was empathy with boundaries.
Hmm.
Number two, communication. I mean, you have to have open, clear, honest communication in order for trust to work. I mean, and not that we're going to cover this in this topic on this show, but I know that Kelly and I were talking recently about the different forms of communication. It doesn't have to be verbal because she, as she stated, she worked in a group home with nonverbal. Well, what did that look like? How did Kelly communicate with those people? Well, she developed a communication style that works specifically for, and it just gives me chills. I just love talking about that because we have so many different forms of communication that we don't. I think most of us just take for granted that we don't really know. Like, well, yeah, if I want to call my friend, I just call them on the phone. Well, not everybody can talk. So, like, what does that look like? So, maybe we'll touch on that some other time, but
Yeah.
communication is huge. And then respect and non judgmental. We've talked about that quite a
Yep.
bit.
Yep.
The feeling of safety, comfort, and calmness. People really do have to feel like they're in a safe environment in order to open up because, I mean, it's not going to happen. And then to tie in with communication is active listening and holding space for people. So, active listening meaning that you don't listen to formulate a response right away. You truly are in the moment and you're just listening to what the person has to say. I mean, of course, you're going to respond to them if
Yeah.
necessary, but there's a difference between sitting there listening to somebody and like waiting for your turn to talk and just sitting there and taking it in and allowing something to come to you naturally to
Yeah.
be able to respond from that place that they really do need you to instead of some prefabricated textbook response, which is
Right.
not helpful to anybody, in my opinion. um,
I
yeah.
always say that it's the difference between listening and hearing.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You can hear all kinds of things, but if you can't repeat it back, then you weren't really listening.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Exactly.
And don't be giving anybody a test on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Listen, I'm going to raise my hand right here and say that I've said that to my husband so many times, right? You're not listening to me. Yes, I am. Fine. What did I say? Um, Rain says, aggression, impatience, and boredom doesn't breed trust.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree about all of those points.
Yep.
Excellent. Excellent. Semper
Yes.
said a moment ago that I was gonna highlight that, but then we switched a bit. Semper says it sometimes helps to remember that our brains are wired to a place or to place more weight important on negative things. The general measurement of it is that it takes 5 good things to equal the significance of 1 bad. And I think that was talking to the point that I had made a few moments ago about, we forget how many situations or how many interactions that we
Mm.
actually sort of go through in a day or a week, a month, whatever, where
Yes.
we put our faith and our trust in other people. And most times they're strangers,
Yep.
right? Like every time you go to the hairdresser, for example, right? Am I wrong,
Absolutely.
friends? Because we've all been there, right? Where we
Oh,
walked in the hairdresser and went, "What?
yes.
What have
Yeah.
you done to me?"
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
Absolutely.
were you finished there, Andrew? Or did you have something else?
I think
I
that
just
was
wanted to add
it on that topic.
one little thing here, which speaks to the same stuff that we've been talking about, and then I think we'll move on to the next thing that we were going to do, which is like trust in relationships, which is I personally believe where most people have issue. A person with trust issues, it's quite possible that you are harboring like some kind of like negative response, either because you've experienced the pain of mistrust in your environment, like when you were as Ange said before, in terms of like neglect. In my specific case, and because I share and I trust, I've told you guys, before on a few occasions that when I was growing up, my house was like the Leave It to Beaver house. In my mind, that's how it was. It was pretty darn near perfect. And then all of a sudden, my father lost his business, and he basically went crazy.
Mm.
He started drinking. He started messing around on my mom, and then he became physically abusive. And one night, my father was an avid hunter and fisherman, and he kept his guns at a local gun shop that we knew the owners of because he belonged to a sportsman's club, blah, 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 whatever.
Mhm.
And so one night, my mother got a phone call from the owner's wife and said that my dad had called and was coming to collect his guns. And the next thing I knew, we were all laying on the living room floor in the dark, face down on the carpet underneath the big picture window, with my mom's arm over top of our backs because she was convinced my father was coming to shoot us. And my dad did come to the house and was standing outside calling my name.
Wow.
Um, so when you talk about trusting, putting your trust in other people or not being able to put your trust in other people because of situations from your past or your environment or, abuse or any type of situation such as that. Um, I'm not saying because I had that situation that makes me an expert. I'm just saying, like, I get that. I totally get it.
Mm-hmm.
It makes you feel like I can't ever let my guard down because the minute that I let my guard down, something really, really, really bad is going to happen. Also, because I suffer from anxiety, I walk around, as many of you know, I've said this many times before, with this cloud, the proverbial dark cloud over my head, with this impending sense of doom all the time that something really, really, really catastrophic bad is going to happen to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to put my trust in everybody, wherever that everybody is, whether it's at the supermarket, whether it's at my house, whether I'm at someone else's house, whether I'm out in public. I have to put my trust in everyone that if something happens to me, that they're going to look after me. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so again, it's to that point that I was making earlier where, I don't have a choice. If I'm out in public and I have a panic attack, I don't have a choice but to put my trust in those people that might look at me and that they're going to help me
Right.
and not judge me and going to be kind and compassionate, empathetic, whatever the case may be. Right. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
uh, the reason why I bring that up is because I think it's important for anyone who's going to listen to this in the future or who's listening now knows that I'm not just sitting here reading a bunch of stuff. I also have trust issues. I understand
Mm-hmm.
what it feels like to have the crap scared out of you, and so then to build that proverbial wall up to protect yourself. But
Mm-hmm.
I've also been on the flip side of it, which I think makes it an interesting perspective that I offer, because I've also been on the flip side where I don't have an option. Like, I truly don't have an option. I've been put in a situation where I have to,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
I can't look after myself when that happens, right?
Right.
Um, the barriers that I put in my own sort of protective mode, right? When I lift that wall up to avoid, the pain, the rejection, or the guilt, it is taking me years to remove those. And oddly enough, the only way that I did that was by then being in the predicament that I found myself in with the anxiety, where I had to, which brings me back to the point that I made before, that when about the innocence, when I was put in a position where I had to, most of the time the people around me were very kind,
Mm-hmm.
um, which I just think is a really interesting. Like, I'm not trying to make it full circle, but I think it's a really interesting thing, and I brought it up because I would love it if the next time that anyone who's listening finds themselves in a position where they're like, I can't do this because I just don't trust it.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to give you just a little bit of food for thought in that particular area to allow you to remember or to encourage you to remember a time when you had to and remember how it turned out.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Kelly, for sharing such a personal story. Like, I yeah, I really do feel that when we are vulnerable and we open ourselves up like this and we share personal stories, I just feel like because we never know like who this video is going to reach or who's sitting in chat,
Exactly.
and and how that can give someone strength in their own life, and I feel very much that's what your channel is about. Is giving voice and strength and support. To people that come across your
I tried.
content. So that's what I feel.
Thank
So
you.
and then kind of just touching back just briefly, and then we can move on from here. But I just wrote the ability to sense and decipher trustworthiness of another is self-protective skill that many develop at an early age. However, some don't develop it at an early age. Again, going back
Yeah.
to the upbringing, and we don't have to get into that too deeply. But I mean, it's just a good point to make that, you know, yeah, the ability to trust. Like, I think you and I were chatting the other night, just personally, and I said, well, like when you're a kid and the kid and your parents are like, don't talk to strangers, and you're like, okay.
Yes.
But then when does that become like a hindrance to you, where you're supposed to be developing your communication skills as you grow, and you're like, oh, I'm not supposed to talk to anybody I don't know. My mom told me that. It's like, well, yes, but and
I think
it,
I think
yeah.
that when you're little, to that point that you're talking about, like if something of like specifically that point, if that is said to you when you're a child, and it's said to you in a way where it is not a conversation. It is not a piece of information that someone's saying, like, you need to know your phone number because of this reason. When
Mm-hmm.
it is given to you, where the fear is injected into you, that if you step outside that line,
Mm-hmm.
something really, 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 really bad is going to happen to you.
Mm-hmm.
That right there is developing into there's that wall, and like I'm trying to go like this over top of it. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
That's my
Right.
opinion anyways.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it stems from just the generations of trauma and hurt underneath that. And instead of being the parent to sort of break the cycle and say, okay, well, I am your parent. This is a safety mechanism that I'm
Yes.
teaching you, versus this is my trauma that I'm passing down to you. I think that's the difference there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
yeah, so
I just want to say one more thing before you I know what you're going to do. So before you do that, I just want to say one thing, okay? It's really, really, really important. I know that this is a huge topic and there's so much to cover in it. Um, I don't have an issue asking Ange to come back and we can dive into it more. We can talk about other stuff because we're at 53 minutes, right? And most of that's my fault because I talk so much. Sorry, you guys know how I am. But one of the things that I want to say to you is that um, in my personal experience with the anxiety again, and I don't mean to keep going on and on and on about it, but it's important because it's the truth. If you are actively working in a defense mechanism kind of way towards, whoop, like here's my little square, I can't go outside of it. The damage that you can do to yourself
mm,
is really, really, really significant. If there is
right.
a way that you can listen to your intuition, trust, no pun intended, your intuition in
Mm-hmm.
terms of what I said before, remembering other times and other scenarios and situations where it worked out for you.
Mm-hmm.
If you do some work on yourself to aid and assist you of just one brick falling away, you will, and I joke about this all the time, and I'm moving my hair on purpose. about the shoulders lowering, right? You know, if you walk around like this all the time,
Mm-hmm.
it's not good for you.
Mm-hmm.
Not good for you. And I am not trying to, like Faye is saying, my trust issues come or came about because of trauma, so I would lie to keep from getting hurt, right? I am not trying to in any way diminish the
Mm-hmm.
significance of
Mm-hmm.
why someone has a trust issue. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just giving a little tip,
Mm-hmm.
a little piece of what Kelly has to do, and it works for me. So I encourage everyone to at least give it a shot, because you know, when that little piece falls off, that little piece of damage falls off, all of a sudden your heart becomes more peaceful and more joyful. And
Mm-hmm.
do we not, my friends, all deserve to have that in our life? Don't I mean, we all do.
Right.
So I say that back to you to, you know, I want you to try to do that if you can.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. I went
No,
on.
no, this has been a great conversation. And yes, so like in science, like we say, how I would view that is, um, somebody continuously living in that fight or flight
Yes.
response, like all the time, and
Yeah.
that absolutely 100% manifests into disease and illness. Of course, it
Yeah.
does, and so it becomes like this cycle, downward cycle spiral of all kinds
Yeah.
of things. So this is excellent advice, especially from someone who's living it. I mean, it's
Yeah.
one thing for me to stand here and tell you, that who I've supported and whatnot, but and I'm not saying that my life has been perfect. I've had my share of things, but I'm not trying to compare it to yours or anyone in that manner. What I'm just trying to say is that it's very real that
Yeah.
hardening your heart constantly in that
Yeah.
fight or flight response does unfortunately manifest into further illness, and it can be a really deadly game for sure.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Um, okay.
So I
Um,
know that we have a bunch more things to talk about. So I'm just gonna put this right out there right now and totally put you on the spot. And I said I would never do that. And I'm so, look at me. Hello. She can't trust me because look what I just did. No. um, and would you come back and we will continue this, like I don't mean like next week, but like in a couple of
mhm,
weeks we will continue this conversation,
mhm.
so we can talk about like relationships
Sure.
and trust, because I
Yep.
believe that that's probably the thing that people mostly identify trust issues with.
Sure.
Would
Yeah.
you be
Yeah.
willing
We can
to
do
do
that. Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, because I had written down some qualities of trust, how we can build, develop in relationships in our life, which is what
that?
you're saying
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
How do we as individuals prove our trustworthiness to someone else in
yes,
terms of how can we be the best person that we can be in order for people to be able to trust us? Um, because there's so many layers to this. Again, maybe I'm just saying in general, uh,
hmm,
are the people that have hurt others and have broken that trust in others, and like how can
yes,
we make that right with ourselves moving forward,
yes.
because it doesn't make you a bad person as long as you're willing to learn from it and not repeat the pattern of
Right.
course, right?
Well,
um
and to that point, it's not always done intentionally. You know, I
no.
could say something and hurt you. Like, okay, so I just said, "Can you come back?" And we could finish the show, and you could say, "You put me on the spot. What was I supposed to say?" And I'm like, "Sorry." You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah,
It,
yeah,
it
yeah.
can be something just as simple as that. But the point I'm trying to make is that if the other person or persons in that situation is hurt,
Mm-hmm.
or is made to feel some sort of way, as I love to say,
Mm-hmm.
um, then they view you as an untrusting or untrustworthy individual. So then you now have to figure out, well, I don't even know what I did. How am I supposed to get past it? So I think that
Yes.
would be. I mean, I so want you to come back and
Sure.
we will continue the conversation because there's so much more to say.
Yes.
Um,
Sounds good.
really, really, really quickly. We're gonna we pulled a couple of oracle cards. Like we didn't shuffle them; we pulled them intentionally to read them to you guys, just to give you a few last minute points. Don't anyone go anywhere just quite yet. We'll go like 1 hour and like 1 minute But go for it, Ange. Give us your card, my love.
Sure. I have a couple of them. I'm just gonna do these ones here. So the first one I have is all about trusting the process. And you see here, this individual is building this sort of castle from the ground up. And that ties back to the foundations I was talking to about trust and how
Yes.
without those foundations, this will never come to be. So there's that. And then this one here is just sort of a different look at trust, again, of putting our trust into people that have the expertise. So, you know, if our house is on fire, we call the fire department, we're
Yes.
hoping that they know
Yeah.
what the heck they're doing to come and save us. This is from another oracle. I just liked sorry, it's a little glary. The depiction of that, of the gentleness
Beautiful.
of the two hands coming together, and you know, the ability to open up. And again, it is a risk to open yourself up to trust, but it's necessary in order for it to happen.
Yes.
And there's a couple more, but did you want to share some that you
Sure.
pulled too?
Real quick, so I've got from the Power of Surrender card, Surrender to Trust. Sorry, I have like a hair. I know, it's hard to believe. Beautiful image on this, and you can see that there's in the image, there's a young woman sitting there, knelt down, staring off into nature at the water, you know, the sun coming through the trees, and she's got her hands sort of in the praying position. Message on the bottom of this card is trust yourself and your decisions. Don't be swayed by other people's strong opinions about what to do. Take action and be confident that you have chosen the right path. So again, speaking to the listening to your intuition, listening to your gut, you know, believing that you know what's best for you, right? So you're trusting yourself, which
Yep.
is, you said in the beginning, Ange, is where you believe that it all comes from, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And from that same deck that you were just using, the Power of Surrender, I love that deck, by the way.
I
And I'll
love
just
it.
let you know that, of course, Kelly and I prepared for this chat. I mean, we care about the topic, we care about all of
Yes.
you. But I will say that I love the synchronicities and the sort of energy that we are feeding off each other, because we did not talk ahead of time about certain decks that we would be using at all. So the fact that
And
two decks.
we both pulled the same cards.
Yes. Like, I actually had the Surrender to Trust card out in that deck, but in the same deck, I also found this one, and it was Surrender Unhealthy Relationships. And I really felt like that sort of ties in with trust, because, and we can get more into this in the second part of this conversation, is, you know, trusting yourself to know when to let go of certain relationships.
Yes.
Whatever that relationship, it doesn't necessarily have to be love. It could be family members. That's a really big one. It could be like an employment situation, switching psychiatrists because you don't trust the one that you, I mean, on and on and on, right?
Yes.
So again, this one is just reminding you to surrender to unhealthy relationships when you know, again, trusting yourself that relationship no longer serves you and is actually becoming toxic. So
awesome. I'm not gonna read from the book. I'm just gonna show real quick one more. This is from the Soul's Journey Oracle. We have trust, and to me that always reminds me of a dream catcher. I love the images of the cards. Gorgeous. The bottom of the card says, I accept that my inner voice will always guide me correctly. And that, I mean, there's no better way to sum it up. So, my friends, please show Tiny Trinkets and Tarot and some love. If you have not already gone to her channel, checked her out, please do go over to her channel. JR put the channel in the chat, and of course it will be in the bottom of the video in the description box. I believe it's already in there. Please go over there, like, share, subscribe, give her a thumbs up, all that good stuff. I would appreciate it very much. And thank you so much.
Thanks, Kelly. This has been a great conversation, and I hope one that, like you said, we can continue to have. Hopefully
Absolutely.
Something that we've shared here has helped somebody out here, because this is what we are passionate about and why we are putting ourselves out here like this. So thank you so much for having me. I am looking forward to returning. Thank you to everyone in chat who has shown up. Rain, Thank you so much for being here. I know
Yeah, Rain's awesome.
Rain has been just an amazing person that I've met recently through Tarot Vlogmas Challenge here on YouTube, and I'm very fortunate to have her as a friend too. So thanks for being here. It really
Awesome.
does mean a lot to me.
Yeah.
All right.
Says
So,
that Rain put in the chat, I have both of those surrender cards on my altar right now. Thanks so much.
oh wow,
Lady Night, Ange, and nice to meet you, Kelly.
that's so
So
cool.
there you go. My friends in the chat, as always, I love each and every one of you. This wouldn't work without you. So thank you so much for being here and participating. And please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, thumbs up, bell notification, all that good stuff.
Yep.
Bronx Sage, thank you so much for being here. I said hi to Bronx in another chat earlier today. I was like, I miss you. I haven't seen you in a while. Faye, thank you so much. Anna Banana, Cecile, JR, and Kelmar, of course, because he was here. That's my husband. Sempris, thank you so much for being here. You guys know that I love you and I appreciate you. And what else do I have to tell you? I don't think I have anything else to say except for please make sure that you show up on Friday for Thank Spirit. It's Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Time with Jane the Seeker. And until we see each other again, my friends, mwah, blessings to everybody.
Bye everyone. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Ange.